Craig has entered the chat. Honestly, I love Craig. I don't know what I'd do without Craig. Great bot. We'll kick things off in 2 minutes. Agenda for today, Artemis team will be joining to discuss their data dashboard. I'll quickly run us through some protocol updates before that, cover some of the new chains, lots of the new chains that we launched on over February. It was a very busy month, another very busy month. And then I will cover some of the governance updates. So we had a couple proposals that passed, and we had, I think, one new proposal that's worth discussing as a community. Then we'll roll over into progress updates from Artemis on their data dashboard, which is something that we've all been anticipating and waiting for patiently. I've been working closely with the team over at Artemis, great team, and they have been building out the data dashboard for 2 months now, and we're nearing completion. So over the next 2 weeks, the data dashboard should be ready. I've posted a link for anybody who wants to try what we currently have available. Let me get you that link again, actually. Pretty sure Artemis team, who will be joining in just a moment, will be able to do a little bit of a demo today. Maybe even get a screen share going. If not, I can also share my screen. Okay, let me post. Here's the link so that we have it nice and early. That's the dashboard. So it's still a work in progress, still under construction. If you guys also take a look at this channel that I'm sharing now, there have been some questions and a bit of discussion going on in this channel, a channel for pre-collected questions for today that we'll definitely cover in depth. But Isaiah, the ecosystem lead at Artemis, has very kindly been, getting to the questions early and providing some info for our community members. Alrighty. It is 4:01 GMT. That means it's time to kick off and get things underway. Craig is here. It's good to see some familiar faces. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Casper. Welcome, Alpha Iggy, Sendok, Drama, Champ. Great to see you all. I think lamps will be arriving in probably the next 2 minutes, but I'll just kick us off with the usual process, and then we can speak to Lamps when he gets here. It'd be great to hear a little bit about what's been going on at Denver and the updates about Stargate from the Denver conference. Alrighty. Welcome everyone to the Stargate Finance Community Call, where we discuss proposals and ideas that will help shape and govern the Stargate protocol. Feel free to join the conversation on stage anytime by simply raising your hand, and if you have any comments, please add them in the chat. This is a call where we get together as a community to discuss ideas and topics that help shape the future of Stargate. Any discussion around digital assets should not be construed as investment advice or recommendation. Please remember to do your own research on any topics discussed and consult your own advisors. Alrighty. Well, as I said, I'm going to run through some protocol updates, which is to say new chains that Stargate has launched on. As I said, very busy month again. I think January and February have been two of our busiest months ever, especially since I joined the foundation. It's been exhilarating and it has been hard work, but I think we're quite happy with the outcome. The results speak for themselves. Stargate is now on 45 chains, one of the most interconnected protocols in the space. I was speaking to one of the business leads at Agora the other day, talking about some governance updates to the Stargate protocol, and they mentioned to us that Stargate is just so far ahead in terms of cross-chain interoperability and having a presence on so many different chains. Excuse me. And that's really a testament to how fast we move and how quickly we're able to deploy the Stargate protocol to new chains. Great to see a couple people have jumped in as I've been discussing this. Hi, Lamps.
Oh,
Welcome.
how are we doing? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling a bit better. For the community members that don't know, I've had a bit of a cold, but nothing that will stop me from working on keeping the community happy. So all well. How's Denver?
Denver is nice. Denver is very busy. Lots of people looking for integrations with Stargate. Lots of new chains. Lots of people talking about interop. I definitely think interop is the theme of this conference, and so it's nice to have lots of people asking questions about how we view interop and how we've kind of managed to scale the protocol.
Super exciting. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's Stable Summit today, which is one of the most popular stablecoin conferences, if not just outright one of the most popular conferences in the space. And I believe we're actually a sponsor, Stargate sponsoring Stable Summit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Stable Summit is actually just kicked off 4 minutes ago. I'll be heading over later to give a keynote about Stargate. And yeah, I mean, I think Stargate plays a very, very important role in stablecoins, particularly in interop stablecoins, as kind of the stablecoin asset issuer in all of the new ecosystems. And especially over the past month or two, we've really seen obviously adoption of Hydra and the bridge to USDC standard, which we're issuing through Stargate, and then over the past couple of weeks, really seen that success on chains like Berachain, Abstract Story. Been really fun to follow, and so looking forward to kind of telling the world about Stargate successes.
Absolutely. If they didn't know already, yeah, it's been a super jam-packed month. So was January, and I think we launched on 13 new chains. So actually, that leads me nicely into some protocol updates. I just wanted to cover some of the new chains that we have launched on over the month of February. So starting with obviously Berachain, and I think today I'm not gonna go into Berachain and what that means for Stargate because I've done that so many times. I think we all know how successful of an integration Berachain was for Stargate's Hydra module. So I guess we could sort of start chronologically from the next one on, which was Ton. Ton have one of the most exciting communities that I've come across so far. It's a really interesting blockchain. The Open Network is what Ton stands for. They're integrated within Telegram, which is, as they like to say, the fifth biggest app in the world, period. So that's really their unique selling point and main value prop is that they have access to about 1 billion users. They saw a lot of activity last year during the summer of 2024. It's come down a little bit, but still, we're seeing some interesting volumes and transaction sizes coming through the Stargate front end, where we have enabled transfers of USDT via a number of connected pathways powered by the legacy mesh. That's Arbitrum, Tron, Ton, and Ethereum. So that's an interesting novel set of pathways there that went live earlier this month. We then saw Story. Story was also a super successful launch. I've been speaking to members of the Story team. It's a great team. They're also super active and busy at the Denver conference right now. I think they had the Story Town Hall yesterday. I checked the numbers earlier, and we saw over $10 million of USDC bridged through Hydra in the first week into Story Mainnet, which was super successful. That number sits at about 9 million now. And we saw about $3 million of wrapped ETH. So some decent initial volume and bridging going on over there. We also had Unichain go live, an ETH pool on Unichain that was approved by the DAO back in Q4 of last year. Uniswap Labs is obviously one of the leading teams in the space in DeFi. They've done a lot for the space, made a lot of contributions, and this is their latest venture. Unichain sort of started off slowly for Unichain, but Stargate actually did what we could, and we sort of contributed to the chain's TVL with just over $4 million worth of ETH TVL on their chain through our pool. We also had Gnosis, another Ethereum-centric L2 go live, or sidechain rather. Gnosis, USDC, and ETH pools were established, and I actually remember testing this one out. It took me, I think, 30 minutes to use their canonical bridge to get some USDC over to Gnosis. It was a bit of a lengthy procedure. But obviously now with our pool set up, I can get there in a minute or so, maybe even less, which is super exciting. Goat Network went live. That's full Hydra integration. Goat, for those of you that haven't heard of Goat, is a Bitcoin sidechain. Check it out. It's a niche chain, as it were, but it's really interesting and the team's great. They like to say that, they're one of the first Bitcoin sidechains that adopted Hydra. And they're really adamant that we put out some marketing that focuses on, that partnership right there, the Hydra and Bitcoin sidechain. So look out over the coming weeks and we'll see something there. We also had Sonic go live. There were a couple community members that kept pinging me to ask when Sonic was finally going to go live, and we made it. Sonic went live on Monday, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, it's a great one. Sonic is a popular chain. Our tweet got a lot of attention from the Sonic community. So that's a USDC pool, as approved by the Stargate DAO. And I was looking at the overview page. I've seen a handful of six-figure transactions since the launch a couple days back, going through Stargate, which is super exciting to see. And then we
I
have
met
some, yeah.
I met a builder last night who was very, very excited that Stargate had gone live on Sonic, and this was from Beefy Finance, who had already plugged in Beefy to Beefy have rewards vaults or kind of yield bearing vaults across a number of chains, including Sonic, and they do all of their revenue distribution through Stargate V2. So they bring all of the revenue back to one chain and then distribute to holders. And already yesterday morning had they integrated their Beefy vaults with the Stargate V2 pool. So they were very, very excited to see Stargate go live, and within a day had integrated it to their build.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's always super rewarding to see builders, come and set things up on top of Stargate's sort of canonical bridging and prime liquidity. It's really great to see. Alrighty, I think we had a couple more upcoming chains that are nearing completion in terms of deployments. So stick around over the next couple days and there'll be some announcements for some chains that have been highly anticipated. And if you want some alpha on that, just ping me in the channels, any of the main channels, and maybe I'll share it with you. Alrighty, moving on to quickly just run through some governance updates for the DAO. So we had a couple passed proposals, an ETH and USDC pools on Kronos ZK EVM proposal was passed. You can check that up in the snapshot that went through. And the summary there is ETH and USDC pools on Kronos ZK EVM. So it's the layer 2 elastic chain launched by Kronos in the summer of 2024. A little bit more details to minimize the effort by the Stargate DAO. Kronos Labs will fund the pools on Kronos ZK EVM, starting with $1 million each ETH and USDC for at least 12 months. And those will be upsized as needed. Another proposal that passed was to deploy USDC honey liquidity on Bearswap. That passed, and I think we spent quite a bit of time discussing it as a community on the last community call. So I'll direct people to the recording of that community call if they'd like to hear more about that proposal. Alrighty, with all that being covered, today's special guest, after all, is Artemis. The Artemis team has been working very hard for the past 2-3 months to build a Stargate-specific data dashboard. This was an RFP that the DAO put out in Q4 of last year, and we had a number of teams approach us with very in-depth proposals for how they could fulfill our request for proposal, right? And Artemis ultimately took the challenge, and they have been working, as I said, very hard for 2-3 months to bring it to life. So today we have Isaiah from the Artemis team, who's been around. He's been hanging around in the community for a while now. Isaiah, welcome. It's good to see you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And it's actually not only me, but I also have one of our engineers who's been working really hard on the Stargate metrics calculations and the dashboard build. So I'll let him introduce himself as well.
Yeah, hi. My name is ZJ. I'm actually part of the Artemis team as well. And yeah, I've been cranking out some like Stargate stuff and the metrics. Yeah.
Yeah. So super excited to have the engagement of everybody. Thank you so much for the questions in the governance channel in the discussion. Really happy to like answer all the questions and continue answering questions that you guys have. Just to kind of give a little bit of an update on where we are in status. So we were able to launch the first iteration of our Stargate dashboard. And just want to kind of like reiterate that this is just the first launch, which is essentially the launch of all the Stargate basic metrics, right? So these are all the metrics that don't go deep into all the asks and all the things that we are working on extra in the protocol, but it's essentially the dashboard that you'd see on any other competitor public dashboard, right? Like DeFi Llama, token terminal, and we want to just start with that to kind of show you guys first iteration of a post of the dashboard, kind of like get a feel for how the dashboards work. I know a lot of folks have pro accounts for Artemis, so not only can you use those dashboards to like look around and see how they look, but you can also look at some other project pages as well and kind of explore the platform. But what's super exciting is all of the extra metrics that are coming forth. So I don't think I can share my screen. It looks like it says I can't stream into this channel. And if you can adjust that, if that's possible, Henry.
Let me have a look right now. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if not, that's okay as well. I did send some pictures into the governance discussion just to prepare for that shows the additional tabs that we'll have available.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've linked those down in the chat for anyone that wants to have a look. It doesn't appear that I'll be able to grant you permissions. I think it's like a role-based system for sharing screen. But yeah, I think I could also potentially share my screen if you wanted to walk through people that way, or up to you entirely. You've shared a couple of pictures here, a couple of screen capture images, which look pretty sophisticated. So up to you. As long as we get through the questions that the community have asked, I think that should suffice.
Yeah. And I think a bulk of it was around like, hey guys, like this is great. The dashboard looks cool, but essentially, what about all the other stuff that we asked for, which makes a lot of sense. And just wanted to address that with these pictures, right? So in addition to just the fundamentals tab that is on the dashboard right now, which sendoc, exahash, you guys are right? Like that's very base level. What we also have coming that will be beside that fundamentals tab is a specific tab for treasury analytics, a specific tab for usage analytics, a specific tab for holders analytics, and a specific tag for stakers analytics, and also incentive information added into the fundamentals tab. So all that are back-end processes that we're most of the way through, and we're looking to publish all of those additional tabs that will kind of like round out the proposal that we were building for Stargate, and will be launched mid-March. Let me just maybe address some of the questions that were put in the discussion yesterday. So I think the ones that are a little bit more specific is our calculation and the difference between fee, revenue, and supply side fees, and whether or not we can like offer a breakdown of each of the fee sources. So we'll let ZJ talk a little bit about that and how we've calculated fees and supply side fees.
Yeah, so the fees, how we actually calculate it is currently through like the smart contract, where we actually take the OFT send and OFT receive, and then the difference of it will actually be calculated as the fees. Yeah, and how it's actually breakdown is 5/6 of the fees are actually given to the fee holders, which is the revenue, and then 1/6 is actually to the suppliers, which is the VSTG holders. As to how we can actually potentially aggregate and segregate into the bridge fee, unwrap Hydra asset, as well as the bus and taxi fee. For that, we are still looking into it, and we are trying to actually properly like break down into those.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. And then there was another question around essentially fees driven by incentives. and how to calculate this on chain. This is something that is, one of the more complicated calculations, and Seb and ZJ have been working on, kind of like displaying this in the best way. But maybe Sundok, I know I have your Telegram and your Discord address. So maybe we can talk a little bit more and get a little bit deeper around just like whether or not I'm understanding that correctly, understanding that question correctly. It's something that we want to dig a little bit deeper in, but we have to kind of like understand how to be able to view incentive driven fees as apart from, or as as an element of the fees overall. Because I think what we have a really good handle on is the fees overall and the different types of fees. The fees driven by incentives is a level granularity lower that we want to get a handle on and want to display, absolutely, but we're having a little bit of trouble, but absolutely working on it for that that release in mid-March. I
This is
think
all sounding
that.
great.
Oh, sorry, Henry.
No, I was saying this is all sounding great, and yeah, Sendok's just put a comment in there, so I can definitely, off the community call, we can talk in depth about dynamic fees, right? That's one of the unique aspects of the Stargate V2 protocol is dynamic fees, and so they'll change based on demand, user demand, and behavior for different parties, right? And so the fee won't always be the same, depending on the credits that have been allocated by the credit allocation system, the AI planning module. A lot of the sort of nitty-gritty components of Stargate's architecture. So I think maybe we could sit down and spend some time just looking at that and making sure that you guys have a complete understanding at Artemis of how the fees really work on Stargate V2.
Beautiful. Yeah, that would be great. And then the other bit that I want to cover on this call is, yeah, so Sundog asked a good question around if we're going ahead with the incentive dashboard. So it was in the scope of the project, and we were, planning on releasing it. But if there was something that the DAO wanted to replace that with instead, we're open to doing that if that is the DAO's decision. I don't know exactly how that decision would be made, but open to replacing incentives with something like TVL per chain, and that could be something that we could definitely swap out if that is what the DAO prefers.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because as the community might have seen this morning, we put up an announcement just reminding folks that incentives have now been switched off on the Stargate V2 protocol, and V1 for that matter. Essentially, this comes as a result of Hydra's success, and the protocol now has enough locked liquidity, as we say, to facilitate bridging across all the pathways that we serve. So this is a bit of a big change to the Stargate protocol, but as discussed in depth and consulted within the community and the DAO and the foundation, we believe this is the correct next step to turbocharge Stargate protocol and really become continue being the biggest and cheapest bridge in crypto. I think to your point though, Isaiah, I think it could be great to get some discussion going within the Discord, and if we come up with any ideas, or if I notice any recurring themes for what we could have in lieu of an incentives dashboard, then we could potentially get that straight over to you guys, or if we needed to go through the DAO process and get a sort of amend that on top of the existing one.
Okay, yeah, let me know. There are a couple ideas that Sundog mentioned, TVL per chain, and then differentiation between LP and OFT bridge volume. Like, talk to Sebastian, talk to ZJ. Like, we could definitely do both of those instead of incentives. It seems like that would be like an easy swap if that's the case. So just let us know. We're flexible.
Those two ideas sound, given that incentives have been switched off, those two ideas sound more appropriate. Definitely, I will be in touch.
That sounds good to me.
Alrighty, just checking here if we had any more questions. I think Exahash wasn't able to make it today for the first time in a while. he was wondering if we'd have, you know, a stream or a screen share. Unfortunately, we won't, as community members have seen during the call. But we have images that have been provided very kindly by Isaiah, and I'm sure they'd be able to provide more if necessary. We also had another question from Exahash. Is there any advanced analytics capabilities here with the data visualization? He's used to being able to drill down through the data or visualizations with most of the modern analytics platforms. I think what I see in this question, and actually I see it quite a lot in the space, is people have access to these tools that allow them to visualize flows, right? Flows
Yes.
in protocols, and they color them and make them very sort of legible to the wider audience. Is that something that we'd have here with Artemis?
Absolutely, and that's actually something that I forgot to mention. So thanks for bringing it up. So even actually, yeah, today with the access that you guys have to the platform, you can actually go to outside of the, and I'll send a link actually, outside of the Stargate project page, you can actually view Stargate's flows specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and send this link into the chat really quickly. And this is something that, oh wait, it looks like I can't send a link. It's unfortunate.
Hold on, which link? If you send me the link in a
Okay, yeah,
DM,
I'll
that up.
DM you the link.
Sure.
Okay, just sent. Sorry, it's kind of long. It's because it's situated a certain way. Nice. Okay, so that's a link directly to all of the Stargate flows, and that's the good thing about what you guys did opt for is having this dashboard within the overall Artemis platform, is because not only can you see Stargate's flows here, but you can also see the flows of all Stargate's competitors, right? Like canonical bridges as well as generalized bridges or generalized messaging bridges like Wormhole, across. Right? You can compare Stargate's flows and the visualization of Stargate's flows to every other bridge. Now we'll also have this visualization directly within the Stargate project page as well. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Henry.
That's my pleasure. I also actually had a question of my own. I think we discussed this at one point earlier, but I was wondering in terms of like comparables, like who do we compare to, and on the dashboard, who are we going to be seen next to? And I saw a number of like L2s and other protocols that aren't necessarily doing what Stargate does. Not a lot of people are doing what Stargate does. We're pretty unique, but at the end of the day, I think maybe having it change such that it isn't, layer twos like canonical bridges as comparables like Avalanche, C Chain. I wouldn't personally put them down as a sort of comparative point of analysis here.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. More so, I think like Rainbow Bridge and Across and Wormhole, maybe Synapse should be in that comparables list. Totally agree with you.
Agreed.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, we're working on updating that.
Cool. Alrighty. Feel free to put questions in the chat, guys. Hello, HZBug. Good to see you, Stargate Power user. Actually, on your question, HZBug had a question in the pre-collected questions channel. Thanks for the great dashboard, first and foremost. Some good feedback from the community to Artemis. I noticed that TVL is skyrocketing. Indeed, it is. The success of Hydra is responsible for that. Stargate V2's core module. With respect to your question on OFT contracts and sometimes pathways not being enabled and transactions being stuck in flight, especially for larger transactions, I'm aware that you had a relatively large sized transaction that was stuck in flight. This is something that I'm very aware of as a community lead, and I make sure to reach out to the teams as soon as possible. So on that particular case, the team hadn't wired up the correct pathways. Their configs were set wrong for one pathway, and we weren't aware. We then made it available on the front end as a pathway, but in fact, it wasn't actually available at the underlying level. So that's not a problem. The funds are still safe. They don't disappear. It just means that we need to either get the team to set the configs right, or we need to do some work on the back end to just revert the transaction and get the funds back on source. But going forward, I'll make sure to pay closer attention to OFT contracts. As the OFT standard goes, it's permissionless. Anyone can deploy an OFT. Anyone can wrap their token with the OFT adapter. There are lots of teams that make mistakes and errors when doing so. I say lots, it's the minority of the overall process, but there are teams that make errors. And we do our best to make sure that these errors are caught early on before the user has to face them. So appreciate the feedback there, and we'll do better to make sure that we don't run into these issues again. Alrighty. Any updates on adding more DVNs? This is a common critique of Stargate and Layer Zero. Absolutely. We saw quite a loud critique of Stargate last week circulating around Twitter. And for the most part, the points that were made weren't necessarily correct and had errors in their logic. However, one point that we all agreed on, both internally and community, is just that, as Sendok has mentioned. We need more DVNs. Over time, I think that's something that we do really need. At the moment, Stargate has never lost $1 in LP value and has never lost a dollar in bridging and serving all these bridging pathways throughout the ecosystem. We're one of the safest protocols that exists. We also have a $10 million bug bounty, and that's never been broken or succeeded. So I think it's definitely something that we're aware of and have been working on. Now, in light of the recent changes to the incentive structure of the protocol, the success of Hydra, and a bunch of other things that we've had within our sort of remit, our mandate to execute on, with those being completed, we can now allocate more of our attention to thinking about the security stack, thinking how we sort of enforce it, boost it, make it more robust. As I mentioned, I spoke with Agora the other day, a team focused on governance, cross-chain governance. And the main bottleneck that's holding us back from having more DVNs at present is the sheer amount of chains that Stargate is on, right? So Stargate's connected to, I think it's something like 58 chains if you include V1 and every single chain we've ever deployed to. But we say for the most part 45 chains, right? And with this sheer amount of chains, there aren't many other teams that are capable of hosting infrastructure and running services on so many different, because it comes with a lot of requirements and costs, essentially. So innovation needs to take place in the realm of cross-chain governance and cross-chain security. At the moment, I think Nethermind is probably, and Stargate's own DVN, but Nethermind is probably one of the only teams that can actually manage and afford to host the DVN toolkit on all of these different chains. But yes, to answer your question, TLDR, it is something that we're very aware of and very focused on. I think we'd like to get it to something like a 3 of 5 or a 4 of 6 DVN setup. I think that would be ideal. It is something we'll be working on over the next couple months. Oh, and another question coming in from Sendok. Wonder if there's any updates on Aptos reward distribution. This is very true. We need to deliver on. This has been, as a community, things since joining the foundation, is looking back into the archives and working to make good on some of the promises that we held with the community from a different era, right? I wasn't actually with Stargate when the Aptos Bridge rewards were promised and distributed, but nonetheless, that means nothing. I have full commitment to getting that sorted, and I am actually working with our new smart contract engineer who will be able to run the script. The main reason, for full clarity here, that was taking so long, Aptos is an alt VM, and the programming language is called Move, and that's very different to EVM and Solidity at times, and most of our resources have been in the latter. So getting everything ready for the Aptos bridge rewards took time, and then having to work through that same process eventually just got lost, and the resources weren't there to make good on that promise. But now that we have a new smart contract eng on the team at the Stargate Foundation, it's something that I do believe we'll be able to pay out over the next month or so during March. Alrighty. That looks like everything has been covered for today. Made sure to go through some of the questions, some of the great questions that the community had. And it was a pleasure to host Artemis, to have Isaiah and one of the lead engineers from Artemis join us today. I think it's worth remembering that the reason the Stargate DAO sort of opted and put out an RFP for a specific data dashboard for the Stargate protocol is because we are very unique, and we have architectural components and designs essentially that set us out from the rest of the protocols and the rest of the services that exist in the space. And we wanted to really be able to see all the inner workings, right? The nuts and the bolts of how the Stargate protocol works, where providers like DeFi Llama and other data analytics companies weren't able to do that for us. So we went out of our way to sort of try and focus on that specifically. And I think Artemis are doing a great job at getting us there. Looks like the last push, the last stretch, and we'll be able to see some of those more nuanced aspects of dynamic fees come to life in the Artemis Stargate Data Dashboard. And that will really empower us as a community to be able to understand what's going on under the hood and how we can best shape the future of the protocol with respect to governance decisions and new chains, and really have the data per se, in-depth data. So yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Isaiah and his team, and to the Artemis team for coming on board. Thanks to the community. Thank you. We appreciate it a lot.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
It's our pleasure. Alrighty. I think that brings us to the end of the community call. Sorry for my hoarse voice. I have a bit of a cold, but nothing that will stop me from keeping the community happy. Thanks for being here, everyone. It's been a great community call. Lots of updates, lots of progress to be seen. Last couple weeks for Artemis, and we'll have the final product ready. So ping me if you need anything. There are some exciting things coming in the next couple weeks. March 17th, remember the date, March 17th. If you know what that is, kudos to you. It's St. Patrick's Day, but it's also something else day. And it's a special day for the community. And there'll be something that comes along with it. I know I'm being very vague. There we go. Someone said it. It's a celebration of 3 years of Stargate. And we actually have some Genesis Stargate merch on the way. I've been working very hard behind the scenes with some fantastic merch producers based in Europe to get some merch ready for the Stargate community. So those of you that are here that spend time thinking about the Stargate protocol, that know how it works and want to know more about how it works, be active, be loud, make noise in the community, positive vibes only, and let's keep making Stargate the largest and cheapest bridge in crypto. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for your attention. Take care.